Okay, everybody, new year means a new project for the channel. This is something that I've been putting off for long enough, but it's finally time that we buckle down and make a video about every single devil fruit in One Piece. All right? Every single one. I'm still up on the air on whether or not I'm going to do non-canon fruits or what, but every single canon devil fruit at the very least, all right? So here are the statistics. This is where we stand right now after, oh God, this will be 9 years talking about One Piece on YouTube. Jeez. All right. In the story right now, the total tally of devil fruits are 91 paramecia, 54 zones. I have not done a lot of zones, so this is going to be animal facts take two once we get to those. And 13 logias with a grand total of 161 devil fruits that are currently available in the One Piece story. Now, as we all know, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been talking about a lot of devil fruits. This is just one little example here. These are just like some of the first initial paramecias in the story. This is how many I've already talked about. All right, so this is just one little, we're going to do the paramecias first, then we're going to move on to the zones. I think I've done all the logias. I'd have to double check on that because there's not that many logias. But right then and there, by the way, this wasn't intentional in the slightest, but the first paramecia I have yet to actually make a dedicated video for is Zala's Toge Toge no Mi, the spike fruit, which we're going to be talking about today. And it just, coincidentally, her name is Miss Doublefinger for New Year's. And New Year's just happened. Like, that's perfect. This is the sign from God Usopp telling me to finally finish off the devil fruit discussions. Every single one. So, we got two, hot ladies from One Piece. We got Zala first, then we're going to do Hina next, and then Bellamy. All right. Oh, okay, Bellamy's fruit's not that bad. Bellamy can mess you up with that fruit. Then we have Foxy, which, okay, Foxy's fruit is cool. And then very good with the Berry no Mi. And, there's the Sharinguru, the guy with the wheel fruit. So you see, we could talk about some stuff here, all right? And then we have a bunch more paramecias I've yet to discuss. And then we're going to go into zones, and then we're going to go logias, and then maybe non-canon fruits if I have time. I think I have somewhere around 80 videos on devil fruit discussions on the channel, like in that general ballpark. I've been kind of reorganizing them in a playlist. I think it's around there. So we're at least halfway done. Let's just say we're halfway done already, okay? But, oh man, this is going to be a fun journey. So, come along and let's see how it goes. But anyway, today's video, we are, yes, talking about the spike fruit, also known as the Toge Toge no Mi, also known as the stab fruit. All right. Miss Doublefinger is actually unique for a couple of different reasons. The one that actually, stands out immediately is she exemplifies Oda's love for the hourglass figure. We all know a lot of female characters in One Piece are drawn with that super exaggerated hourglass figure. Miss Doublefinger, she maxed out that stat. You could really tell that Oda had fun drawing her, especially like the exaggerated way she walks around, which actually factors into her fighting style, we're going to see. She's also unique in that she has multiple cover names or like code names. So most Baroque Works agents have their real name, like Marianne is Miss Goldenweek's real name, and then Miss Goldenweek is her code name. So Miss Doublefinger has a few. Miss Doublefinger means 1-1 in Japanese, meaning New Year's Day, so January 1st. By the way, while we're on the subject of that, happy 50th birthday, Oda Sensei. Just hit 50 on January 1st. Thank you for all you do. Make sure to get some rest, but I'm really looking forward to Elbaf in this story. So happy birthday, Oda Sensei. Great. That's what Doublefinger stands for, which also makes her four kids' name make the most sense. Like they changed Miss Merry Christmas to Miss Groundhog's Day, but Miss Doublefinger, they just changed that to Miss New Year's Eve, which works. Okay, it's not really New Year's Eve, but whatever. Then she also has her real name. Her epithet is Poison Spider Zala. Okay, Zala is her real name, and that's like a really cool name, right? But she also has another cover identity she uses, Paula, who runs the Spider Cafe, all right, out in the middle of the desert. And she actually might be going by Paula right now, because after the events of Alabasta and they were all thrown in prison, and then Miss Goldenweek's Meet Baroque happens and they get broken out and they open up a new Spider Cafe, and we actually see them running the Spider Cafe when Vegapunk's message is playing where they were at, right? And her dream, as with Miss Goldenweek's Rainbow Colors Trap showed, was to just be Paula. She didn't want to be Zala anymore. She didn't want to be an assassin anymore. She just wants to be a barista at a coffee house. more power to her, right? So she might just go as Paula right now and just like remove that name. She might just change her name, right? But she still has the power of the spike fruit. So the duo, Mr. One Daz Bones, he had the dice fruit, allowing him to turn his body into blades. Already made a video about that. And Miss Doublefinger has the ability, not quite as versatile as Mr. One, but to create spikes on her body. Not the least bit less deadly, just, you know, you can't do all the crazy stuff that Mr. One could do. So spikes, so knives and stabbing weapons is what Miss Doublefinger's ability is all about, okay? So she has like the standard things that you would imagine. In fact, honestly, Miss Doublefinger's Devil Fruit is actually terrifying in just how quickly she can kill you with this power. Like, all those times where she was running after Nami, and, you know, Nami was using the Mirage tempos, so there was, like, a couple of times where, you know, you saw Miss Doublefinger straight up just stabbing Nami like a spike going right through her head or right through her eye, and it was revealed to just be, oh, it's just a Mirage, you know, whatever. No, actually, that's probably how she assassinated so many people before this, okay? Because like, you wouldn't even see it coming half the time, honestly. She would just, like, walk into a room, super dead sexy lady just walking in, shaking her hips. Everybody stares and is, like, you know, dumbfounded by her. And she's like, hello, are you, you know, are you Jeremy Jenkins? Yeah, I'm Jeremy Jenkins. Okay. And then she just reaches out her finger, and just like the T-1000, it just spike right through your eye. Just, all right, well, that was that assassination done. I'm out of here. And then she leaves, okay? She had a bounty of 35 million, by the way. Nami defeated a person with a bounty of 35 million in the Alabasta arc, okay? We're actually going to talk a little bit about Nami, too, because I had to rewatch this fight, and it's pretty impressive. But yeah, she could generate spikes anywhere on her body. And yes, anywhere on her body, her boobs turn into spikes at one point in the episode. We see that. You know, Oda already went there. He knew where that was going, okay? But yeah, the most practical way to do this is just, like, you know, talk to somebody and just look down at them. She could turn her nose into a spike like Pinocchio and just stab them there, and just, it's gonna be a kill shot because it's super fast and you're not gonna see it coming, right? Nami was lucky because she had the climb attack. She can make the mirages and everything to kind of fake her out and all that stuff. But yeah, that was a brutal fight. Nami got stabbed a lot in that fight, which is why I used to always say Nami was a glass cannon. Upon rewatching that fight, she's not, okay? She got stabbed multiple times in that fight. She got stabbed in the shoulder. She got stabbed in the ankle. There was that one attack where Miss Doublefinger turned all of her hair into spikes, like a giant spike ball, and these spikes were like 2 feet long, and she just ran right into Nami. Nami used her foot to block it. Her foot just gets punctured from like 3 or 4 different ways with these razor-sharp spikes. And Nami was still able to, like, you know, fight through the pain and use tornado tempo to beat her. So yeah, Nami's definitely not the strongest member of the Straw Hats, but calling her a glass cannon when she was able to endure that kind of pain and damage, it's not really fair, okay? So yeah. So a couple of techniques here that Miss Doublefinger has. The first obvious one is just turn your arms into spikes. I mean, you have the spike fruit, just turn your arms into spikes and just stab, you know, just go crazy, right? So that's a double stinger. We see this ability pretty much the first thing that she does against Nami. Nami's kind of like dodging. She's a little bit sadistic in the sense that she's like, okay, I mean, like, I could probably finish this fight a little bit sooner, but I'm just going to, like, mess with her a little bit. So she, like, punctures a wall, and she's able to pierce right through these things, like stone walls and stuff with her spikes. We don't exactly know. The idea is that it's still her flesh that she's turning into spikes, but it's hardening because it's a spike now, okay? So it's not the exact same thing as Mr. One Daz Bones' ability where you actually see the blades, like the metal coming out of his flesh. This is more of just like, she has blue hair, right? And so the spikes will turn blue. Is it changing, like transmuting her hair into like steel or something like that? Probably not steel, but it's like as hard as steel is the idea there. So for most of the beginning of the fight, Miss Doublefinger is just kind of toying with her a little bit. She doesn't really see Nami as like a major threat. She turns her arms into spikes and kind of slashes at her. She turns her fingers into spikes and they kind of extend, kind of looking like Freddy Krueger's glove or whatever, and like slashing at Nami with that. And remember, there's a whole comedic undertone of this fight because Nami is like reading the instructions that Usopp wrote for her for the first generation climb attack. And there's one scene where Nami's reading the instructions like, oh, it's great for parties. And she's like, damn you, Usopp. And like as she's saying that and crying, Miss Doublefinger just takes out her like Freddy Krueger Kruger hand and just slashes Nami's cheek, and you see the blood, and she has to, like, run away, right? Some other techniques she has that she uses in that fight, most notably, are the hedgehog technique. Now, Zala has blue hair, so she turns into a blue hedgehog. I don't know. This is ridiculous. Have you ever seen a blue hedgehog before that can move really fast like Zala does? Like she hits the ground like a tire and moves really quickly? Oda expects us to believe anything. I just don't get it. Hedgehogs are not blue. But yeah, she just kind of curls up her whole body in a ball and just like a big spike ball comes out and she just like runs people over. Nami actually gets away from that kind of clever. She jumps into a building and that doesn't really stop Zala. She just crashes through. But it's kind of a situation like with Kuro's ability where he can't really see where he's going type situation. So Nami takes out her, she was wearing like her desert clothing, like her like robe and everything. She takes that out and kind of like throws it over the spike ball, and obviously all the spikes like rip through the cloth, but it kind of jams it up a little bit, so Nami's able to kind of like toss her aside and she's able to make her escape. And at that point in the fight, Zala gets up and is like takes off the clothing and she's like takes off the robe and she's like, oh, so you have some skill in fighting, you have some talent, you've definitely fought before, this isn't your first rodeo kind of situation. All right, I could stop playing around then, right? As the setup for that hedgehog technique, actually, what she could also do is extend spikes from below her feet, like she's wearing high heels, right? And she can actually use that to walk on, like, flat surfaces, like sheer surfaces, all the way, like, upside down, extending the spikes out of her, so she's, like, walking up, like, clamping down or, like, piercing through whatever material she's walking through. So that's a pretty unique ability there. It's not as, like, freedom to walk around is like actually like being Spider-Man, like adhering to the surfaces or whatever like that, but she's able to like run up a building and like hide above like on a ceiling like archway, and so Nami couldn't see where she was, and then she looked up and she's right above her. Okay, so she definitely knows how to use her ability. She's trained with it quite a bit where she could get to that level. She can also extend the stilettos of her heels, essentially walking around on stilts, maybe Tangent at this point. Maybe if Tangent could have any devil fruit, maybe this would be the devil fruit he would have. It's the closest thing to a stilt devil fruit that exists. But yeah, so she extends the stilettos of her heels, and so she can just basically walk around, and this is where she incorporates her kind of unique walking style, where she's like swinging her hips like really exaggerated, but when there's these giant spikes, coming to pierce you, and it's just like one thing could just like run you right through, I mean, that's kind of intimidating, right? By the way, at this point, this is a scary devil fruit. Like, this is one that I would not want to run into under any circumstances, because just the idea of something super, super sharp and thin, like, piercing your flesh or cutting you like a needle. Like, look, whenever I go to the doctor to get a flu shot or something, I don't really worry about that too much. I don't look at it when I get the shot. I look away and I'm like, yeah, I feel the pinch. It's like, okay, whatever. But the worst, and I apologize if this also bugs anybody out, but like when I go to the dentist, if I need like a cavity filled or something, and they got to bring out the Novocaine. By the way, I don't think they use Novocaine anymore. I have a friend that's a dentist, and she's like, yeah, they haven't used Novocaine since like the 50s. I think it's like lidocaine or something now. Anyway, they take a syringe filled with some kind of thing to numb your mouth, to numb your gums, right? Like, the idea, and like, I don't have my eyes open for that. Like, I cringe hard, because just the idea of a small, super thin, super sharp metal needle going into my mouth and into my gums is, I need a minute. Okay. All right. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry if everybody else. Can we take a minute? We can take a minute. Have a drink. It's okay. People shit on Usopp's, like, lame lying techniques that he used. Like the Usopp spell power, where he was just like, picture bamboo shoots beneath your fingernails. That would probably work on me. That would be actually really intimidating. Like, picture a syringe in your gums. Okay, Usopp is truly terrifying. Okay, so anyway, yeah, this is a scary devil fruit ability. Like, honestly, I just finished reading Joe Abercrombie's the First Law trilogy not too long ago. So Gloctra is like the head of the Inquisition and everything, and there's so many brutal scenes of him just torturing the crap out of like random people in the story. And I'll tell you what, like, Zala is probably the torturing expert for Baroque works. I actually cannot think of another person that would be better at it. I guess Mr. One would also be really good at torture to like get information out of somebody. But dude, seriously, you just like lock me in a room and then Zala comes in and she's like, you have the code, teching. And then she's like, I need the code. And then like the freaking like spike hands come out and she's like, ha ha ha, right into the eye. It's like, okay, no, I'll tell you the code. I'll tell you the plans. I'll give you the blueprints, whatever you need to know, please, God. Okay, so yeah, that she probably does that in her spare time. Okay, Stinger Step. This one is also, I mean, her abilities are not that complicated. They're just terrifying to think about, all right? So she is really tall. She's got long legs. She, knocks her opponent down prone, and then she takes out her foot, and then just a big ball of spikes appear on the bottom of her foot, and she just steps on you. I'm imagining there's a slight erotic undertone going here with Zala's ability, and actually we're about to get to another one in a second here. Wait a minute. Do you think Oda, when drawing Zala, was like, wait a minute, this is going to be a little bit kinky, I wonder? Okay. Dude, I remember the 4Kids dub. The episode title they used when Nami fought Miss Doublefinger was just Bad Girls. They knew what they were doing. Okay. So we have Sea Urchin Stinger, which I talked about earlier. She makes her hair turn into spikes. Probably aesthetically, like, the coolest looking ability she has. Because she has, like, the, curly, big, hair that comes out, and it's blue hair. And then all the spikes just at once, and then she just runs into you. But the big technique that she can use, like her ultimate move that she kind of developed, I don't believe, she definitely did not have this awakened or anything. Also, interestingly enough, maybe this isn't a feature of the Devil Fruit. Maybe if she awakened, she could do this, or maybe if she trained a little bit, maybe even she could do this. I don't even know if this would be an awakened ability, but she never actually fires off the spikes. The spikes have to always be connected to her body, so she can't, like, turn her finger into a spike and then fire it like a bullet. She can extend it really fucking far, so it might as well be a bullet, but it does have a limited range. So that's actually kind of fascinating. You think if, not even an awakening, but you think if Zala trained enough, she could, shoot a spike out of her body, like maybe her nail or something like that, because it is parts of her body. Her hair, she could definitely do that. Like, I feel like I've seen that ability before in anime. I think Jiraiya did that in Naruto once, like turns his hair into spikes and then fires them off like needles. Yeah, like Senbon or whatever. She could totally have done that. Maybe she just didn't train enough to get to that point. But yeah, firing off the spikes like a projectile, obviously upgraded. And then if she awakened, she'd be able to turn the entire area into spikes. I guess this also, just like how Luffy is immune to bludgeoning damage because of the Gamu Gamu no Mi, or, the Gamu Gamu no Mi, and Buggy is immune to slashing damage, I guess that would make Miss Doublefinger the one that's immune to piercing damage. So don't fight her with a rapier or anything like that. Any kind of stabbing, piercing weapon, I guess that just wouldn't do anything to her, right? But a slashing weapon would. If she gets hit with a hammer, Nami defeated her with electricity, so like striking her with lightning, that did it. But yeah, it's interesting. So we have Luffy immune to bludgeoning, Buggy immune to slashing, and then Miss Doublefinger rounds out the D&D type of damage by immune to pierce damage. There you go. That's cool. All right, that's neat. So here's her like ultimate technique that she uses, okay? Not really sure even how this works, but this is how it works. So she takes her hand, she makes her fingers spikes, like the Freddy Krueger gloves, and then she stabs herself in the arm. This causes her arms to just get roided out immediately. Just like giant arms, okay? In the Japanese, it's toge doping, or spike doping. The other translation is acupuncture. I've never done acupuncture. Has anybody out there watching this done acupuncture? And does it make your muscles just go crazy? It's just like, hey, I got a weightlifting competition. Acupuncture me. It's like, okay, all right, I'm ready to go. Like, is that how that works? I don't know. In the 4Kids dub, they cut it out. They just cut out the scene where she stabs herself because that's a little bit too, intense for 4Kids. And they just cut to a scene with her just growing arms her arms just get super buff for no reason. All right. But yeah. Some kind of acupuncture-based ability. Maybe it has something to do with, like, because they mentioned doping in the same way that, like, blood doping, like what would happen with, like, Luffy when he's going gear second and everything like that. But from what I understand, she's not injecting anything into her. It's not like she can fill. It's not like Ivankov's hormone fruit, where Ivankov also can make his fingers into spikes or syringes specifically, but can inject hormones into people to change their body around. That would actually be a technique that would make way more sense for Ivankov to have, now that I'm actually thinking about it. Maybe the spike fruit is the downgraded version of the hormone fruit. Maybe it's possible, because Ivankov specifically mentions, like, I can inject steroids into people. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a cool thing. But anyway, she does this and she gets her arms super buff. And while her arms are super buff, she adds spikes to them to basically turn her arms into, like, kanabos. Okay, like, so, like, the spiked kanabo club that, like, Kaido uses, because her arms have more mass now. The spikes, and she can control, I guess, the angle of the spikes. Like, she can make a super narrow spike like this, like a needle more close to, or she can make more of like a blunt spike. I guess it has to have a certain angle to end in to be sharp, but beyond that, she can kind of have full control over that. So that was like her ultimate move, making herself super buff and then covering her arms in spikes and just swinging her arms around like kanabos, just crushing buildings and pillars, just bulldozing through all of that street in Alabasta just to try to kill Nami in one last-ditch attempt. I think there was also, in the anime, there was one more scene where she turns her arm, kind of like her hand, into like a morning star kind of thing, and then she goes to stab Nami again. I don't think that was in the anime, or that might have been in the movie too, because in the 8th movie, Alabasta, they changed that fight around a little bit. Ultimately, she is defeated by Tornado Tempo. In the original, she gets blasted through a wall, and it leaves a perfect hourglass imprint of Zala as she gets blasted through the wall. In the movie, I think she gets blasted through like a bridge that, she gets knocked over. It's the same basic result, okay? So, yeah, that's that. But, dude, the awakening form of this... Oh, dude, Spike World, okay? Like, she just walks over, and then she just activates her awakening. The ground just gets spiked. So you can't even walk on the ground. I mean, like, you could use hockey, because hockey is, like, the ultimate, like, oh, okay, you're turning the ground into spikes, I'll just hockey up my foot. Luffy hockeys up his sandals, he's good to go, man. No damage whatsoever. Just walking around on spikes, like... Do you ever play, Castlevania Symphony of the Night? They have the Spike Breaker armor. That's basically that with hockey. You're just walking through the Spike world, shattering all of Zala's spikes. But dude, that would be pretty cool if she can, like, extend spikes out and, like, fire them, like the buildings turn into spikes. She just shoots them at you and stuff, especially if you were in a room that has a ceiling, because then she could literally have the spike ceiling and just bring that down on you and just shred you. If you don't have sufficient hockey to, like, or another devil fruit or a Logia or something to protect you, you would just get killed, like, immediately, just impaled from, like, 27 different directions. It'd be wild, okay? But yeah, that's essentially Miss Doublefinger's abilities. Aside from theorizing about some extra stuff she could do if she trained, it's a pretty basic devil fruit, but it's pretty terrifying in terms of a battle, like something you have to fight against, right? Nobody wants to deal with spikes. Did you ever see Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Spike in that? Yeah, I'm just making as many references to Spike as I possibly can at this point, right? Who's your favorite character named Spike from fiction? Let me know, because there's a few. So, next episode, we're going to be tackling Hina's cage fruit. That's another sexy one. We're going to 2 sexy devil fruits right back to back, kind of. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Oh, but wait, we're not done yet, because we still have tree facts. That's right. We're moving on to the letter K. I was really hoping there was like a kangaroo tree or something in Australia, but no, we're talking about the Kentucky coffee tree today. So it's actually not a coffee tree in that it produces coffee beans. It's a substitute for coffee. All right. So the Kentucky coffee tree, which interestingly enough, it does grow in Kentucky. But if you look at this map right here, it's not mostly in Kentucky. It's mostly in like Indiana or Missouri. So it should be like the Missouri coffee tree or the Indiana coffee tree. There's even some that grow here in Pennsylvania, right? As far north as like Minnesota and stuff like that. But it requires a very moist area. So like floodplains and stuff like that. A lot of like well-drained, moist soil it grows in. It could grow up to 60, 80 feet and can last last over 100 years. It is a dioecious species, meaning that there are trees that are male that grow specific flowers, and then female trees that grow female flowers. And so the dioecious species have different types of flowers. The seed pods can grow up to 5 to 10 inches, and as I said, we're a substitute for coffee that you can grind up and get something that's not quite exactly the same, but close enough. And in fact, the native tribes in the area, in the eastern area of the U.S., back in the day would actually use these seed pods as dice for like various games and stuff like that, because they were big enough and they were abundant enough that you could kind of like mark them and stuff, and you can throw them on and you could play like dice games with stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Now, the seeds raw are toxic to humans, so do not eat them, but if prepared properly, you can drink it as like a substitute for coffee. Squirrels will occasionally eat the seeds, but it's not like a primary source of nutrients or like part of their normal diet, but they will eat them occasionally, right? But right now, the tree is pretty much just like an ornamental kind of thing that you'll see in various parts of the eastern United States. So that's the Kentucky coffee tree. All right, so what's up next? H-I-J-K-L. L. Okay, we're moving on to L next. All right, so, oh, and by the way, once we get to the zone devil fruits, yeah, that's just going to be animal facts all over again. Oh, man, this is going to be a fun year. We're going to get through these devil fruits. We're going to do it. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. Teching 101 signing out. Happy birthday, Oda Sensei. 50 years old. My goodness. You know, it's crazy. He started writing One Piece. It was in the mid-90s, I think, when Romance Dawn. It was 97 when it was first serialized, but he was working on Romance Dawn before that. So 50 years, like, it's been, like, he started this when I think he was, like, 19, 20 years old or something. And now he's 50, and he's still doing, like, this is his life, which it must be. I wonder if Oda ever thinks about that, right? I wonder if Oda just sits back and thinks that, like, this is my legacy. This is my magnum opus. I've been doing this since I was like a teenager, basically making One Piece. I just like, I wonder if he just is ever like blown away by that fact of just like what he's created and how it's changed the lives of so many people all over the world. Happy birthday, Oda. All right, later everybody. Teching signing out.